Good morning, everyone, from the Holy Land of Israel. This is David Lang with my weekly Fireside Chat. Hope you're all doing well. As you can see from the background, I'm staying with the new format, which is basically me sitting at a table with a stable camera on the tripod and a bit of foliage going on in the back. And those that want their meat fix, I've posted the photo announcing this Fireside Chat with some good meaty goodness. And this way everyone is happy, hopefully. The vegetarians can continue watching and listening to the important messages, hopefully important messages that I'm putting forward. And the meat eaters get their fix as well. So I think I'll continue along these lines. Of course, winter's going to be... winter, who knows when winter's going to be. But given how hot it is here. But winter, I'll have to find out what I will do. I wish I had a fireplace actually, because that would be a real good fireside chat. Maybe I'll do it in front of the stove or something like that. We'll have to see. Be that as it may, I also want to cover a number of different topics today. I know normally I sort of fixate on one particular topic of the week, but I want to mix and match a little bit today. There were a number of things that I covered on my website this week that I want to go into in today's Fireside Chat. The first thing, which I think is a really important topic, and many of you might have missed this. I know I missed it. It's a month old. And the reason I missed it is the mainstream media didn't cover this. And they really should have. And I think it's very telling that the mainstream media didn't cover this story. And that's that Hamas, and by the way, I saw this story on the Hamas website, proudly declaring that they turned down $15 billion in aid for Gaza. That's a lot of infrastructure, a lot of things that will help the impoverished Gazan people. And there are many impoverished Gazan people. I mean, there's a lot of rich ones as well. It's a more complex situation than the mainstream media portrays. But Hamas bragged that they turned it down. And what was the conditions? One of the main conditions was to lay down their arms. And they're not willing to do that. So the paraphrase, I believe it was Golda, the great Golda, they do not love their children more than they hate us. That's the whole point. That's why peace is so far off. Could you imagine if they accepted that offer? I mean, what would the leadership, at least, the Hamas leadership, what would they exist for? They exist for our destruction. So they're not willing to accept that generous offer. I mean, by the way, it's not just Hamas. How many peace offers did the PLO/PA refuse over time? Because also, they don't really want peace. They don't even, with one, really want peace. So I thought that was very telling. Not the fact that they refused it, but the fact that the mainstream media didn't cover it. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I did check and I didn't see it mentioned anywhere except for Israeli press, Jewish press, the Jewish press as a collective. I'm not talking about the website Jewish Press. And maybe some Turkish press, but other than that, it wasn't really covered. So I think that's very telling. Okay. Another very telling story that caught my notice this week was about a young Palestinian rapper. He's a boy, you might have seen it, and I posted about it. Really a prodigious talent. He raps, and I saw him everywhere, and very, very talented with an American accent, although I don't believe any of his parents are American. I think he just listened to a lot of rap and he was able to sort of mimic it. So very talented boy. And I saw many websites post the videos of him, and Al Jazeera, I call them Al Jiz for obvious reasons, or maybe not obvious reasons, but and a lot of Israel haters were trying to show, try to use him as a propaganda tool, except it didn't go according to the script. It was the young boy whose name, I won't say escapes me because I don't think I quite mastered his name, and I've completely forgotten it. He didn't play according to the rules, and he was interviewed, I believe, by a Russian news station, and he said that what he really wants to work towards is peace between Israel and the Palestinian Arabs. They didn't like that. The Palestinian Arabs did not like that. you know, imagine if it was an Israeli rapper boy who was doing the same thing. He would be lauded in the media here. Across the board, right, left, center, people would be lauding this kid. He would be like a sensation. But here, he said the wrong thing, according to the Palestinian Arabs. They don't like it. And then, and this was heartbreaking, his father put out a video with him in the background, a young boy. He's 11 years old. And you see him just standing there quietly as his father says, look, he was tired, he didn't know what he was talking about. It was all in Arabic, but you got the idea. And if you just look at the poor kid's face, he's getting a dressing down for doing the right thing. Is it any, wonder that there are so many young Palestinian kids and youth that are willing to strap suicide vests onto themselves or belts or commit certain atrocities with knives or whatever it is? Doesn't matter. This is the education they're getting from their own parents. It was sickening. And it was devastating, actually. I mean, this kid could have a bright future. Anyway, I hope the young boy, as I said, whose name I don't remember, he finds the strength to continue doing what he really wants to do, which is to try to bring peace. And I really hope that Palestinian Arab society changes for the better and actually looks up to people that want peace rather than denigrates them and ostracizes them. I mean, again, that's a very telling thing. Abdul Ram Al-Shanti. I just remembered out of the blue. It has nothing to do with a particular comment that might have come across my phone. Okay. A third topic I wanted to discuss today is the chair of the Association of Palestinian Communities in Scotland. Hey, I remember his name, Issam Hijawi. So I got another name as well, I remember that too. Issam Basalat. Check it out on my blog. So he's a so-called activist, BDS hole, as I call him. And he has been arrested because he attended a meeting of the new IRA. And the new IRA is a terrorist organization, just like the old. The new is like the old. Horrible terrorist organization. By the way, the PLO and the IRA have a storied history of collaboration and lovey-dovey stuff and collaborating. The IRA was trained by the PLO or vice versa. I believe it was that way, actually. And so he basically was, MI5 got him. And he claims entrapment. He claims he was pestered to attend this meeting. Can you believe that? I'm sure they really had to twist his arm to get him to that meeting. Anyway, so it's obvious it's a bunch of BS what he's saying, or rather his lawyer is saying. First of all, whenever you read these things, they can't even get their stories straight. So there's some co-defendants from the new IRA. But before I get to that, the new IRA, I'm not just saying they're terrorists as some sort of flippant remark. They were responsible for the death of a journalist a couple of years ago. Okay, so they're murderous, bloodthirsty terrorists. So this guy, this so-called, this Palestinian activist, the chair of the Association of Palestinian Communities in Scotland, peaceful guy, he attends this meeting and he claims it was to discuss, maybe I'm mixing it up, but one of the excuses, either from him or his co-defendants, was to discuss COVID. Very topical, by the way. And the other one was, the other excuse, from either the co-defendants or Issam himself, was to discuss the political situation in Palestine. Actually, I think he was the one that made the excuse about Palestine, and they were the ones that said to discuss COVID. And so they obviously couldn't get their stories straight. But, let's say more of the smoking gun was the fact that in 2018, he went to Lebanon with one of these people. And part of the charges is that they're collaborating with enemies of the UK government to do something. So, Lebanon, that might fit the bill. It doesn't look good. Didn't age well, that particular news story. But what didn't age well even more was a number of years ago, I believe it was in 2017, this same guy was quoted in a news story because there was a school, maybe in Scotland, that had something in their curriculum or in a textbook that called Palestinians terrorists. And he made a whole big stink about it. And now he's on preparatory terrorism charges. So, and the thing is that this is the norm. I could rattle off so many different cases of where so-called activists in cahoots with actual terrorists, going back a long, long way. There was a picture I posted on my blog 16 years ago, I believe, of an ISM, the International Solidarity Movement, the same movement that Rachel Corrie belonged to, with them posing with smiles with guys with guns. Terrorists, Palestinian terrorists. We know they were implicated in the deaths at Mike's place. They somehow sheltered or met with the terrorists that perpetrated that heinous terrorist act. The Dolphinarium, was it the Dolphinarium or Mike's place? Doesn't matter, you get my point. And I could go on and on and on. The Israeli government released a report late last year called Terrorists in Suits, which, by the way, much of the stuff in that report, humble brag coming up now, I had actually posted on my blog months before, showing, the connections between so-called human rights organizations and terrorists like the PFLP, the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine. So this is just, it doesn't surprise me. And I want everyone watching this, and you please share this video, hopefully, to understand that the Israel haters and BDS organizations who claim they're into non-violent resistance, that's not true. Think about how strongly they hate Israel. They're willing to do anything, but they just realize that sometimes full-on terrorism doesn't play well from a PR point of view. They're still willing to support the terrorists on the sly, but officially they don't. And by the way, they don't want a two-state solution. They want one state, which is not Israel, spoiler alert, not a Jewish state. They want us out of here, and they want a Palestinian state, Palestinian Arab state. So that was something else I wanted to draw your attention to. Okay, it wouldn't be a Fireside Chat if I didn't mention some specific anti-Semites, right? All right, so some news about Lara Collab. You might remember her from a few years ago when I posted about her. She was the medical student that posted her anti-Semitic tweets from years ago, I think from 2012. So she was still, a young woman. She wasn't a kid. Were exposed by the website Canary Mission. And that post wasn't really going anywhere. By the way, another humble brag coming up, but I think it's important, not just as a brag, but for you to understand that everyone can play a part in this. Okay, so if you amplify certain posts from different people, which are important, there's a multiplier effect, and it can really go viral. And that's what happened. I posted about it, and it went really viral. Something like 46 or 50,000 views of this post. And then, it made the mainstream media, and she got into big trouble. And actually, she was a real, what we call a chutzpan. She had a lot of chutzpah, because as part of her education, she went to a Jewish university. And one of her tweets, the most egregious one was, I would give the Yehud, Jews, the wrong meds. Didn't even use the word Zionists. And obviously, as a medical student, that's very worrying. Now, I know not everyone agrees. There are a lot of free speech advocates. One of my good friends suggested that he's not into... he thinks, she was young and she shouldn't be cancelled because of this. But I argued, well, in this particular case, no, you can't take any risks. Because if she's a medical student and she's one day going to be a doctor, and she's linking her profession, where she's supposed to be taking care of people, with potentially killing Jews, you don't take any risks with that. So I said to my friend, in this case, no, I don't agree with you. And I think most people agreed with me. Be that as it may, she was in the news again because the Cleveland Medical Board Ohio Medical Board have revoked her medical license. So it just goes to show you that just from one blog post and then me posting about it and then people sharing it, things really took off. And this is what I keep saying to you in these chats, and a big part of what I do on my website, Israeli Cool, is fight back against anti-Semites. And this makes a real difference. Not only does it mean that there's a potential murderer, and I'm not exaggerating, I don't trust, if she really hates us that much and she says it, she could be serious. So not only do you take her out of circulation from the point of view of being a a doctor. I don't know if this means that she can't be a doctor in other states. Maybe she will move states and be a doctor there, but it makes things harder for her. But it also gives pause for thought for other budding anti-Semites out there. It's a deterrent. If you're going to spread hate and incitement against the Jewish people, we're not going to just lie down. We're going to use legal means to fight back. And this is, I can't emphasize this enough. And everyone watching this can play a part. You don't have to write the posts if you don't want to, but you should share them and spread the word. And by the way, I don't usually do the follow-up on my posts. So I write the post, but then you guys, many of you out there, will contact people, whether it's, employers or boards, medical boards and things like that. And get, so it's a real collaborative team effort. And that's what I mean when I say that it started with Canary Mission. I helped out, but all of you helped out as well. So you should all give yourselves a pat on the back. Very important. Okay, from one anti-Semite to another. Last week, I spoke about the vile Angelo John Gage, if you remember, the white nationalist, who I wanted to draw attention to him because I was very worried. The videos coming out where he said he was willing to die for the revolution that he was planning. And he had the secret chat. And I also called out my friend Joseph Cohen from the Israel Advocacy Movement, who was one of the only, if not the only, fellow Israel advocate who, when I made the call saying, guys, please put this on blast, that responded. And he responded in great fashion. He put out a video that I posted yesterday, in which, because basically one friend of his, or someone that he knows at least, infiltrated that chat, went into the chat, this secret chat. I mean, Angelo posted the link, but you had to kind of go through some hoops to get into it. And then was monitoring what they were saying and found out more about what they're planning. And basically, if you haven't seen the video yet, check it out. The easiest way, I guess, is just to go to my blog and see the post about it. The Fascist Takeover of America, I think is the title of that post. And what they're planning is to field crypto-fascists within the Democrats and the Republican parties, rather, to run on populist platforms like education and healthcare and the like, but then to basically actually do a takeover, like a fascist takeover. And whereas on that chat they weren't all talking about violent means, this Angelo John Gage, he is always saying from his videos, and Joseph did a great job of showing different excerpts, more than I showed last week. I think I showed about, sorry, not showed, but you heard what I played the audio, when I played the audio to you last week, some excerpts rather, and Joseph actually showed more footage. Very, very worrying. So I'm not saying that they all are planning this violence, but he is encouraging people within that group of like-minded fascists and neo-Nazis to be willing to die for their cause. So that doesn't sound good, and that's why I wanted to alert everyone to it. Anyway, so Joseph put that video out, check it out. And Angelo, it's come to Angelo's attention, of course, and he's not happy. And one of his, let's say, excuses or comebacks was, well, it's out of context. It was edited. There's no way you can edit that to look good, Angelo. No way. And just so you know, Angelo, that, yeah, you can plan whatever you want, but we're not going to just lie down, okay? We are going to find out what you're up to. And again, this isn't a threat, okay? We're not the violent ones. You know, Angelo, another thing that this Angelo character has whined about is the fact that there was maybe an overzealous Jewish woman, pro-Israel person, that wrote a comment in anger, I guess, which doesn't look good. I don't remember the exact comment, and he's kind of trying to use it to show that he's being threatened. And that's what they do. So, you know, you have to be smart, people, okay? So, you know, I get very angry at this stuff, but we don't say anything, because I don't believe a woman, right, a woman out there, probably married with a family, is really planning anything against this Angelo, this army-trained, violent guy. Okay, she said something in anger, but don't give them, you know, grist for their mill. Okay, as I say, I keep saying all the time, fight back legally in every sense. Take their public posts, their public videos, and use them against them. That's what I do. but never make threats or anything that could be construed as a threat, because it's morally wrong anyway. That's the first and foremost thing. But in addition to that, you know, it damages our cause of fighting Jew hatred and racism. Okay, so that's Angelo. From Angelo to Amare. I want to end off on a positive note. Amare Stoudemire, the former NBA player. I've written about him a number of times, a real mensch. He put out a video when we saw more Black Lives Matter anti-Semitism, calling for solidarity between the black and Jewish communities. Of course, he's a black man. And he's always felt that he is Jewish or a Hebrew. He's got Hebrew roots, but he's really gone the full, I was going to say full Monty, but that probably has the wrong meaning. He's gone the full way towards being a Jew. He hasn't done some sort of conversion of convenience. He's gone full on Orthodox conversion, learning in a yeshiva. He's into it. He's a very intelligent guy. He's a thinking guy. And his conversion was just completed, and he's a fully fledged Jew now. So I wanted to just wish Amare Mazel Tov, because of course he's watching this video. He follows me. Not really, but I would love to interview Amare. If anyone knows him and is watching this or has some contact with him, please maybe put us in touch. I would love to interview him. He's a fascinating guy, and I just want to hear more about his journey. Okay, so that's it for this week. I know that most of the items were more on the negative side, but I wanted to end off on a positive note. Hopefully I accomplished that. Hopefully I will see everyone next week, more or less the same time, definitely the same place. So everyone be well. Shabbat Shalom. Have a great weekend.